Alright, so this is progressing pretty nicely. I've got the laptop on there still. Next up, we've got to hook up the Raspberry Pi and get some actual test patterns going out of that. Probably on some of the games I plan to use. So I've got a Raspberry Pi Model 3B Plus. I've got an SD card in there with RPiCade on it. Now, instead of using GERT666, I'm going to try and use one of these with a couple HDMI to VGA adapters, because that'll give me decent audio, or at least hopefully reasonable audio, because the audio on these is really noisy and crappy, and RPiCade uses an adapter rather than the GERT666. For the control interface, the RPiCade uses the Raspberry Jammer, and it uses these for the GPIO for the joysticks and buttons, but I'm just going to use the iPack that's in there and see how the software goes. It should be alright. If it does turn into a drama, I might rewire it back onto there, but I'd much rather keep the iPack in case I want to go back to a Windows machine in the box. So when I first fire up any sort of 15 kHz RGB devices, I like to give them a bit of a test. This monitor is really handy. It's some random Dell LED monitor. It works with 15 kHz really well, so it's a really handy test monitor. So I'll give this a fire up and see how it goes. Okay, that's a good sign. RPiCade coming up. It's in interlaced, you can see it shimmering. Menu 480i. Excellent, so that should work. Oh, it's got crosshash patterns built in to the software. Excellent. It's going to be very handy. It's not yellow though, that's not great. So I got this fired up, I hooked up the HDMI adapter to this, and it doesn't work because I haven't got the sync combination in my RGB mod. That's a bit of a pain. It would have been a really good idea to put that on the chassis, but I'm not really keen to lift that back out. So I decided I would yank the monitor out. I'm going to get in here and hopefully solder onto that connector without pulling it out and add some sync combination. Right, so I fixed the sync problem. I just added a transistor and a couple of resistors. It's a BC546 I think I used, a 1K resistor and a 680 ohm. Looks really ghetto, but if it looks stupid and it works, it's not really stupid, is it? Yeah, so it's going. Circuit is that one. Obviously works quite well. Found it there. Yep. So while the tube was out, I thought I'd have a bit of a go at the convergence. Of course, one of the convergence rings was broken, so I had to pull it apart. So I'll take the cluster off, pull it apart, glue the ring back together. I use super glue and baking soda, works quite well. And I cut some little bits out of this to make the tension a little bit lower. It doesn't actually have a locking mechanism. This is really dodgy, so yeah, I cut some knobs out with the added thickness of my super glue repair so it could spin. I've hit it with some degreaser and just ran it around so I can spin easily and hopefully avoid breaking the rings again. Now I can put it back on and then hope I can do a little bit of a convergence. Right, hard to believe, but the convergence is actually pretty good. Just by sticking those rings back on in a random position, I'm actually really surprised. Like, it was better. It's better there than what it was before when I started mucking with the cluster. So pretty happy with that. Hopefully just a little bit more of a tweak, and that's actually really good. Right, so I've done the convergence pretty roughly. It's not amazing, but really it's better than some other ones I've seen, so I reckon I'm just going to leave it there. Not too bad. Definitely won't notice it in game. Right, so I've just been working on some finishing bits, little tiny jobs, sort of polish some marks off the cabinet. Get the sticks to work again. This one was jammed. That was actually put together wrong and there were pieces in the wrong place. Wouldn't even click. It's going alright now. I was going to buy new sticks, but it doesn't feel too bad. Gate wear, but it should be fine. The wiring, it had this huge thick like trailer wiring harness in it and half of the crimps just fell off the end, so I've been redoing that, working on that, putting an actual plug in so it can be removed too, because every time you open this door up the wire's ripped off and some of the crimps came with it. So yeah, that's the next step. And then I've got to try and find where the insert coin buttons ended up. Right, so I've nearly got this all wired. I use the dirty trailer wiring back into my plug here. That means I can remove the front panel at least. Don't have a coin switch at all, so I'm going to have to wire that in. I removed a shitload of earth wires. I think they decided they needed a separate earth for each one. Maybe there's some of these people who believe the length of the wires affects the latency. Who knows? Here's the back panel out of the machine. Of course, they've cut all the wires on here. Retarded, because the main switch would have been fine for more than 100 volts. The filter on there is rated at 250 volts, 6 amps. I don't know why you would cut all that off. This makes no sense. So now I have to rewire that and put some other interesting devices in to power the rest of the unit. So I need to be able to turn the monitor on and off when USB power is detected from the computer. Okay, I've finished the power distribution setup apart from installing the cab. Incoming, we have the male IC connector. Just use that because there's already a grommet in the back panel. Comes through into the filter. Just soldered that because I didn't have any crimps small enough to go on there. Common earth back through the switch that was already on there. That to this junction terminal. That comes out to the IEC for the PC, which is always connected on because the computer can sit in standby mode then. The other power lead comes out to this junction box or power board. That's got a relay on the active. That relay is fired up by just a dumb USB lead that goes into the computer, so that when the computer's powered up or down, the relay comes on and the monitor and the marquee lighting comes on at the same time. Well, it just keeps getting worse. Look at all this crap. So I've started setting up Groovy MAME in the cab. I had some problems with the monitor, with the 5-volt pin that is used on the Radon cards. Wasn't happening on some of my other GPUs. With this one I had to cut a pin out so it didn't short out because of the way I'd done the RGB mod. Anyway, that's sorted now, and now I have to finish off the software. So I've got the cab in the house. I've pulled it down for a quick last-minute convergence job. Can't quite get it perfect, but it's not too bad. It just goes on for hours and hours and hours trying to tweak out little bits, and then you make a mistake and you're back worse than where you were. So I'm going to leave it there. Happy compromise. I'm happy with that. I'm just using the test pattern disc or test pattern cartridge for the Genesis or Mega Drive, using the Raspberry Pi. I just find that easier than mucking around trying to bring up pictures in Windows and pick the right resolution and everything. But anyway, that's pretty good to go. I'm just going to put the back on, slide it back into place. There's some more software config to do, but otherwise I'm going to call that pretty close to done. Here it is, finished. Still some little bits to do. One day, there's still no front door on it. It doesn't have a working coin mechanism, it's just a button down here, and for some reason the computer constantly puts 5 volts out the USB port, so I'm just reaching here and use the switches to turn the monitor and the marquee lighting on. Anyway, fire it up. Ended up with Windows 10 on it. I couldn't be bothered mucking around with Windows 7 because the hardware's pretty new. Haven't bothered putting a front end on yet. I'm not even that interested in the front end. I just want to play the game, so I've just got an ex-Harvey Norman keyboard and trackball set up on there. I just use it like that. I mean, it's about the games, not the front end. So I'll fire it up. Fetch onto a game, oh, that one will do. There's a little bit of overscan off the edges. I can stuff around with the monoline utility and fix it up a bit. But it doesn't really matter most of the time. So smash some credits in. One player, off we go. Bit of raiding. See, it works just fine. I'm crap at these games, of course. So there it is. Finished. Finished enough. I've actually had a fair bit of fun playing vertical shooters on this. The monitor's got a little bit of blur. I think there's some analog distortion going on, or there's just... Probably should have recapped it a bit further, but it's fine. Like the vertical shooters, that blur even makes it look a bit more like it's moving. So I'm happy, and it's done. That's pretty well the end of that one.